Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Psychedelic Vantage. It's an absolute pleasure today to be speaking with Cody Shandraw. Cody is the president and founder of the Healing Realty Trust. He is also a managing partner at Ambria Capital, which since 2019 has invested over $30 million across the psychedelic medicine ecosystems, clinics, drug development, emerging tech, you name it. Because of all the different verticals Cody has invested in, I am really looking forward to picking his brain today. The goal here is to learn more about the Healing Realty Trust and also to hear Cody's perspective on the drug development investment side of the psychedelic medicine space as well. So without further ado, let's get it going. Cody, how are you doing today?
Good, brother. Dude, that was a killer intro. I'm gonna have you give my eulogy at my funeral. That was solid.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you on because I've heard you in a bunch of interviews, love the passion you speak with, and always giving your honest opinion. One of the few angel investors I can recall who speaks about the public companies and like which ones you like and all that. So it's and again very passionate about it. Um and I'm looking forward right now to first ask. So with the Healing Realty Trust, the Healing REIT, let's start with the basics for the viewers and myself also. Can you explain to the viewers what a REIT is?
Yeah, I'm gonna back up before why we even started the REIT because I think it helps get into why, and what exactly it is. We were investing in a lot of cannabis companies in 2014, 2015, 2016, like all the way up until like late 2018. And one of the bankers sent me a deck for a cannabis REIT. I was like, what the I don't even know what a REIT was before that deck came across. And I was blown away, man. The idea of partnering with all of the largest cannabis companies, but these guys owned all of the real estate that they were in, was a fascinating thing. So what is a REIT, and why did we start this one? A REIT, the main idea. So there's two types of investing for real estate, right? So you have like an asset level GP and LP type of structure, but there's a lot of issues with that, right? Like mainly that the key decision makers are normally the principals of the GP, and a REIT answers to the management team and a board and their shareholders. So I
Mm,
really liked that it wasn't one, two, three guys making the decisions for a company. And then also, I think one of the really interesting things about a REIT is because you pay out 90% of your free cash flow, you don't pay any corporate taxes.
love
So
that.
yeah, so from an investment standpoint, when you look at being able to, number one, have the transparency for the people that you're asking money for. I've seeded the company originally. Amazingly, I think we might be the only company
I was
in
going
the
to ask about
psychedelic
that.
space.
Yeah.
Every single person, like I'm talking literally from our analyst all the way to every single member of our board, has put their own money into this company. Like, so
Wow.
I really, really, really like that. Number one, like it is very simple to go out to talk to other investors because, hey, the management team has their own skin in the game, their own cash. And again, because we're going to be a public company, there's no hiding salaries, there's no hiding bad deals. There is
Mm,
none of that. It's the transparency. And then one of the other really interesting things, so you pay a quarterly dividend forever, right? So that's really the attractiveness of why this makes so much sense is because, listen, as long as you own these buildings, every single person that has put a dollar into this company is going to get a dividend for
mm,
as long as they hold the stock. It's a beautiful
wow.
thing. And listen, obviously running a VC fund, man, I've exited some of the deals that I invested in early. So, I like that it's both options, right? If someone had the belief in us early and when we do go public, they want to exit, great, more power to them. I think
Mm,
that the story and the team is strong enough that the open market are going to fill anybody that's interested in selling. But my hope is, most of the people that are coming into this deal are in it for the long term, man. I mean, one of the investors actually in Fido, he was the founder of One Liberty Properties, and that's a REIT for like industrial warehouses. dude, he said something to me like when we were really kicking around the idea, I was trying to interview a lot of people that are obviously a lot smarter than me just to make sure I was building this thing out correctly. Dude, and listen to this. Matt and his family have owned their shares for 31 years, have never sold a single share. Dude, think about the dividends that they have made. I mean, in the tens of millions of dollars. And they started. I mean, that really, for me, that's one of the things. So, from not only from a shareholder perspective and an investor perspective, but also, listen, if I'm an operator in the space, right, and I'm lucky enough to have been able to visit over 100 of these clinicians across the United States, some in Amsterdam, some in England, you know, the building is a concern for them, right? Psychedelics have that stigma, unfortunately, about them. And, I've heard some horror stories that, people have been in their buildings since 2015, 2016 doing psychiatry, decided to bring in Spravato, and their landlord didn't like them doing ketamine in their building, so forced them out of their buildings. Yeah, man. So like having that belief as an operator that listen, this company is not only controlling hopefully one day billions of dollars of assets, but we have the gumption to stick with these guys no matter what it is, whether it's ketamine, whether it's MDMA, whether it's a psilocybin product. I want to make sure that the operators across the country know that we're there for them. And I also think one of the special things, dude, we're not, this isn't, I'm a small town kid, man. I grew up outside of Buffalo in a town called West Seneca. We're not focusing on Manhattan, Miami, Chicago, LA. That's not us, man. We want to be in the secondary and tertiary markets. There are more than enough options to go get these therapies in these big cities. So, we've really concentrated on working with some of these smaller operators that are still running great businesses, but maybe don't have that big name brand location, on Fifth Ave or downtown Toronto, anything like that. So I take a lot of pride in making sure that the access is outside of just the big cities where most of these clinics right now are all seem to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know actually off the top of my head, I mean there's ketamine clinics all around my area. First of all, in Bergen County, New Jersey, and I'm right near the city. You got New Shama Wellness there.
Yep.
So thank you for that overview, Cody. And actually, I was watching an interview you did with Dustin at Psychedelic Invest speaking about REITs. Did I hear you correctly when you said that REITs have outperformed the S&P 500 over the last 25 years?
Specifically healthcare REITs. And
healthcare REITs.
So I think that is for one main driver. There was a couple of years of downturn, obviously, with the, kind of financial collapse of 2008, but you have to remember, man, like as we've seen this kind of shift over the last 10 years, 15 years, but really like COVID really accelerated everything. Dude, you can work from home for most jobs, legal services, tech services, like you name it, other than healthcare and construction, you're always going to need to be on site for that. So I think while, you see like commercial office space is just getting decimated right now, right? And I think that's because, listen, like I'm sitting at my home and talking to you right now from my home office. That's right. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that is really one of the largest drivers of why healthcare, but then also, listen, you have the, kind of quote unquote silver wave, man. There are a giant amount of people that are retiring right now. And if you look at the spending as a percentage of GDP on healthcare as that population ages, you see in like 2015, 2016, a really, really, really large jump, man. Today it accounts, I think, for almost 20% of all spending.
Wow.
So yeah, and then on top of that, like, so you have that whole dynamic, but then you have, dude, like how many times do you go to the hospital? I don't know how old you are, dude, but I'm 34. Like when I used to get hurt, dude, my parents would take me to the emergency room. Like that just doesn't happen anymore. Now there's these, these 24-hour clinic care things on every single you know what I mean?
Right.
Like
that's right.
Who would have guessed, dude, that all of that has moved out of the hospital? If you look at, and that really started in 2010, the kind of that same exact window, dude. If you look before 2010, inpatient admissions dominated. It was like, I want to say it was 80% of all. Now, if you look, the outpatient side is actually way large. It's more than triple what the inpatient is.
Wow.
So these smaller centers, and dude, like, not only emergency cares, but think about this. If you want a dialysis, you'd have to go to the hospital to get that. Now there's dialysis centers. If you want a proton therapy, you'd have to go to the hospital to get that. Now there's proton therapy centers.
Huh.
Like, dude, I remember like the psych wards, dude, that used to all be at hospitals. Now there's specific behavioral health care
That's
facilities
right.
for addiction. So all of that is moving out of kind of that specialty care type of service, right? And I think we're going to continue to see that if I had to take a guess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you, Cody. Again for that overview. So let's get into the healing read here. I'm curious, have you, where are you guys right now with everything? Have you purchased any healthcare facilities yet? And also, sorry to maybe make this question a bit long here. Are you also looking outside of, like, I guess the certified medical model, like maybe in Oregon, Colorado, I think, as well as getting that thing started as well?
So nothing I hate to say this, man. I am personally with Daniel Carcillo, I'm personally looking at getting a center started out there from a multitude of reasons. Number one, D&O insurance. They just wouldn't allow us to have anything that is a scheduled substance, especially a Schedule 1 substance.
Okay.
The bank accounts, dude, I have being involved in psychedelics and cannabis and think I'm investing in these companies, dude. I'm not operating them. I'm not touching anything. I've had Chase close my bank accounts. I've had Bank of America close my bank accounts. Like, I wouldn't wish the banking on my worst enemy. So unfortunately, we can't do anything out of the REIT right now.
Got it.
Facility wise, we have some very, very large announcements. I'm hoping that in the next 45, 60 days, it's been killing me. Not being able to announce these things. I've gotten, dude, I swear to God, everywhere I go, I feel like I'm getting like the same questions, and I might have spilled the tea to a couple of folks, but yeah, man, we have some really, really, really big announcements. One with a very well-known brand that I think everybody probably has a feeling if they watched me over the last couple of years, who one of those facilities are with. Obviously can't say that because the company's public. And then I also have the largest Spravato provider in the Southeast in one state that we are signing an agreement with to open up 4 additional facilities with them. And then,
wow.
Yeah, man. And then, we've even, shockingly enough, man, we even have some non-psychedelic right now centers that we're looking to move to contract on probably in the next 30 days here. Shockingly enough, when we started this company, I never really thought, and listen, man, credit to the team. I really truly believe that the reason why I've been so successful is because I've surrounded myself with people that are smarter than me. They really were able to kind of step back. I live this every day, right? I mean, it's all I talk about. It's all that I do. So I've just been so singularly focused. And after talking with some of the other board members and management team, the opportunity to start buying right in areas that have low medical vacancy rates, that are in MSAs that maybe don't have psychedelic assisted therapy, but maybe that facility doesn't have somebody offering that services right now. I think you might see a couple deals like that out of us too. Where we can start offering, if a tenant leaves or if somebody's interested. I'm under non-disclosure, so I can't say the company name, but there is a specific behavioral health company that is of the larger size, doing a couple $100 million a year in revenue, treating eating disorders. And they called us, and I was kind of shocked, man. I just I talked to ketamine clinics all day, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that kind of conversation. And they asked us, did we do anything outside of there? And at the time I said, no, we haven't looked at anything, but we've been having some discussions around possibly looking at some additional facilities. And they hit me with something very interesting. He said, listen, I own 37 centers around the United States. He said 11% of my patients have a PTSD diagnosis, and
Oh
that
my
traumatic
God.
event was what created their eating disorder. He's like, if I had to guess, I would probably say 40% of my patients are the exact same thing. They're just not diagnosed.
Wow.
So that was really a light bulb moment, man.
Yeah.
Where there's 2,700 ketamine clinics in the U.S. And listen, that's still a multi-billion-dollar market.
Yeah.
And I think that number is only gonna continue to grow. And then when you look at the MDMA side, but looking at these legacy types of operators that specify in one condition, like once the drug is approved, it really makes you kind of think like what percentage of square footage are they going to start allocating in their space? Because some of these guys want that article in Forbes and Time Magazine. This is the first company in its class to start offering these new therapies. So, I am shocked at some of the types of companies that we have been talking to over the last 120 days, man. You would never, ever, ever imagine,
Yeah.
some of these guys that have reached out to us. It's kind of fascinating.
Sounds like some really exciting stuff, and that it sounds like you've been very busy. I'm looking forward to these announcements, man. If they come out soon, that'd be freaking awesome. Really looking forward to it.
So am I, man. Anybody that knows me knows that I hate keeping my mouth shut. I probably tell a little bit too much, so I'm probably more excited than anybody to be able to finally come to market with these things.
Oh yeah. So Cody, actually, I think you and I went back and forth on Twitter maybe a year ago where, and by the way, I've changed my view on this quite drastically, and listening to you speak about it is a big reason why, where I guess we're seeing, companies, psychedelic alpha, I think labeled it like the Spravatoization of psychedelic medicine. Very like, even with like MindMed and their 10-hour trip speaking about that in Spravato clinics. I mean, maybe, with the short acting, you can maybe make the argument that it can fit into there, but it seems very clear that with MDMA, psilocybin, there's going to be some, specialty, I guess, infrastructure needed. You spoke about like, I think like you need a bathroom in the room, like
Yep.
you're in a trip for 6 to 8 hours. I'm curious as to like what are these facilities like? What could they look like? What could the room look like for a therapy session? And how does it go? Sorry, how does it go with like the renovating these facilities?
So I think you're going to see two distinct types of operators. So for example, let's talk about like a classic psychiatry office, right? That I have a feeling that you'll be seeing, depending on the number of rooms and number of therapists. I have a feeling you're probably going to look at a 3 to 5,000 square foot type of facility, probably 2 treatment rooms, a talk therapy room, a group room. I think that is probably going to be, because listen, man, the toll after talking to some of these therapists, listen, there's 70 hours of talk therapy, right? Like outside of
Yeah,
the 3 dosing sessions that
that's
you
right.
had,
That's
that's
right.
a lot. That's a lot of a person, man. That's a
Yeah,
lot of somebody that you're giving up. You know what I mean? I think that, all the hope around these drugs and, I'm very excited about the real estate, but dude, like the unsung hero of this are the therapists, man. I
yeah,
mean, it is wild. Just like some of the stories and the trauma that these people sit with. I mean, God
yeah.
bless these people.
Yep.
So I think that on a small clinic side, that's probably what you're going to expect. And depending on the urban center, if we're looking at like, let's say outside of Houston, right? I think you could see a larger center where you'll see maybe 5 to 10 types of therapists that are running small practices, maybe go in
Right.
together on one large facility.
I
That they'll
see.
be bringing 1 to 3 patients through a week. You know what I mean? I think that would probably be an ideal situation for a lot of these guys. And then, you look at some of these outside types of facilities, addiction centers,
Yep.
eating disorder centers. Dude, I really, really, really think that they're going to be the tip of the spear. Because listen, you have somebody inside your 4 walls for 30, 60, 90, 120 days, right?
That's right.
Like they're already there, like sleeping there, eating there, getting their therapy done there. Like everything is right there. and the facilities are huge. The grounds are beautiful at 90% of them. I think that something like that, like let's say you're looking at a 30, 40,000 square foot building, I think you'll probably see them take 15% of that square footage, renovate out for these treatment rooms, and they'll be doing 1 to 5, of their existing patients there. So I think it's just going to depend on who we're talking about and what they're going to look like. Renovation side, dude, I wish I had a better, story for everybody listening to this. Shit is expensive right now. Inflation is real, man. Um, we've looked at some very small clinics in the 2,000 square feet side, and unfortunately, what those quotes were getting done for, just 3, 4 years ago and what they're going for today. One of the tenants that we're going to announce, that's going to be a great case study of how different costs are versus what it was when they first started opening up their facilities to what they are now. So yeah,
Wow.
it's expensive, man. I think you're probably on the low end, probably talking about 75 grand. On the high end, depending on the square footage and the operator, I mean, you could be talking $750,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
By
You
the
got to
way,
think though, a lot of these guys have TMS machines in their rooms, so you need soundproofing in all of the rooms. You need a drug storage facility, obviously for DEA compliance. Like, I mean, dude, some of these things are serious jobs. Like some of the ketamine clinics too, man. Like, sometimes you build like 5 or 6 administration rooms, and then there's a spillover room. So that way, every 30 minutes, once they're out of the experience, I can go into the spillover room for 90 minutes. They're not sitting in that one room. So I think it just depends on the operator, man. Everybody's so different, right? I don't want, one of the things we originally talked about, it would probably be a lot cheaper and a lot easier on us if it was just like, listen, this is what it is, take it or leave it. This is how we build them. But there's a different feel for clinics in New Jersey than there are in Florida, than there are in Texas, than there are, you know what I mean? Yep. So the guy in Nebraska doesn't want the same woo-woo type of clinic that, the guy in Manhattan does. So I think it's just, it really is going to depend on exactly the operator and the building that they're going into and what their expectations are.
Got it. I see. And I did want to ask you also, maybe your thoughts around, this is sort of random, but not really random. It's actually pretty relevant. I don't know why I said that. Do you think that it will be like, what if the FDA approves MDMA assisted therapy, would it be possible that they would require these sessions like are recorded, or there's like a monitor like with a screen of all the different sessions going on? I know Eleusis, before they were acquired by Beckley, they had this they had this model that they were talking about, and they actually like showed it, like the whole picture of what they would think treatment would look like, and they showed someone at a screen looking at multiple sessions going on. Maybe they're recorded. Any comments on that?
So I actually saw, full disclosure, I was an investor in Eleusis. 4 years ago, I would have said absolutely. After talking with, dude, I don't even know, man. It's got to be probably 200 people now that have gone through MDMA assisted therapy, whether it's on the clinical trial side or, some of the grayer markets outside of the United States. It makes people uncomfortable. I mean, listen, what's the point of MDMA, right? To lower the fear response so you can have open conversations.
That's right.
If I'm telling you the most traumatic events of my life, how comfortable do you think you would be if a camera was pointed at you?
That's something I never even really thought about. I can't believe I didn't think about that. That's a great point. Yeah, it's a great point.
I had someone that I was very close with that went for a session. He walked out of there because the camera, and I understand from the operator standpoint, it's a liability. You know what I mean? It's a Schedule I drug.
Yep.
There were some potential issues in the past with, therapies of that nature.
Yeah, for sure.
Without throwing anybody under the bus. So I understand both sides. Like, from a liability perspective as an operator, I 100% agree, but I don't think that the buy-in, hearing that story of someone that walked out of the room and they seen the camera was, I tell you, man, that really changed. And then after talking to everybody else. It just, I don't know. Some guys don't care, and I think for some of the really traumatic things like sexual assault and things like that, I don't know if that's going to be
Yeah.
a winning strategy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, they want to go in a soundproof room so nobody can even on the other side of that door hear
That's
them.
right.
Imagine your conversation getting recorded. I mean, dude, we just seen United Healthcare get hacked. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think about the cybersecurity that they had and
That's
what's
right.
going to be at one of these facilities.
Yep.
I don't know. It's a tough ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So listen, Cody, it's really exciting to hear what's going on with Healing Re. Actually, I had a friend who he's always pessimistic about everything. I think especially since he's gotten burned on a lot of investments in the psychedelic med space.
Oh,
And
buddy,
he
fucking trust me. Do I know about getting burned on fucking psychedelic investments? Ugh.
and he was hesitant when he heard about the REIT. Then when he learned more about it, he was telling me, he was like, dude, they're gonna kill it. And then when this guy who's so pessimistic, really smart guy as well, like brilliant, when he said that, I was like, okay, I gotta look into this, and I'm glad that you were able to share what you're doing, and I want to learn more, even more myself, through my own research and maybe speaking with you. So I guess I'd like to switch over to, the drug development side of things, because obviously you're
Oh, baby,
invested you're invested in this space
my
as well.
favorite.
And I've loved a lot of the takes that you've given. So I mean, to get started, I mean, how are you feeling about the likelihood of MDMA assisted psychotherapy being approved in August?
Listen, man, I am the most optimistic person you probably ever meet. I think one of the things that has kept me going in my entire life, when 99% of people would have walked away from everything, is just can that sunshine faith. Like, the sun's coming up tomorrow. This is gonna work. Like, I carry that into everything. And if things don't work out, it's like, oh, it'll work out next time. So I
Yep.
am hopeful. Listen, this has been decades in the
Yeah.
making, right? I
Literally
mean,
decades.
that that for me is probably, the biggest thing. And I hope what happens is this doesn't end up becoming some rich person's drug, where it's like the nicer drug rehabs.
Mm-hmm.
I've had family members go in and out of rehab, dude, dozens of times. And
Mm-hmm.
insurance covers normally one. And if you want to go to a real place, it's normally $20,000-$30,000 out of your pocket. I hope that doesn't happen
Yeah.
with this. I have talked to several insurance related advisors.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. And
Yeah. Go on.
they are very confident, because this is a bipartisan issue.
Yeah. I've heard that a lot. Yep.
Yeah, that this will be fully covered. So I am optimistic, man. But a bunch of people that I've spoken with are like, I don't think it's gonna happen. The ICER report, this, that. Like, listen, even if it doesn't happen in August, okay, let's play the devil's advocate, say it doesn't
Yep.
happen. It's not like it's not going to. So whether
That's
it's
what I've heard
another
exactly. That's what I've heard exactly. Yeah.
so, so the timing aspect, listen, man, at the end of the day, it's the momentum behind. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't talk to, dude, Spravato's on track to be a blockbuster, $900 million of projected sales this
Yeah.
year.
It's
Think
J&J's
think about
fastest growing drug, right?
Yeah, and think about this, dude. When that drug launched, there were 81 centers in the United States that were doing like IV ketamine or IM ketamine drugs. Today, there are 2,700. So it went from 81 clinics to 2,700 clinics in 5 years.
Yeah.
And if you listen, Jeffrey's analyst did a great coverage of this, dude, like in talking about the commercial viability of a psychedelic assisted therapy. And one of the biggest things that he talked about was the lack of real estate and infrastructure to do these things in. So, I think that they projected $1.5 to $5 billion in total sales at its peak for this drug per year. Dude, do you know how many more ketamine clinics that are going to open up? And hopefully everybody that we're talking to now that's interested in opening up their fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th ketamine center, dude, now we're telling all of these guys, listen, take one of the rooms, just one. Doesn't have to be two, doesn't have to be three. Make it bigger. Let's put the bathroom inside of it. So in the event that it is approved in August, you're not waiting 6 months for us to go and redo a building for you to build this out like this. And guess what? In the interim, use it as a ketamine administration room. You know what I mean? Like, these are getting built every day. Like, we just talked to somebody down here in South Florida. They're like, yeah, listen, we're looking for 3 more facilities. Dude, listen to this. 6 facilities. Every single one is cash flow positive. 6 facilities. This company opened up 4.5 years ago. Okay? Like, the need and the want are there for these therapies. Why would you, hampering this? And like, another thing that isn't talked about, dude, there was a report that came out. I don't remember. It was probably 18 months ago. And it talked about the amount of money invested in the psychedelic industry. And this is, like I said, it was probably 18 or 24 months ago. Dude, $2.7 billion was invested into the psychedelic industry at that period of time.
Yeah.
Less than 10% of that went into the actual infrastructure side. So how, when you look at Spravato, Lycos, Compass's product, Awaken, hopefully with their alcohol use disorder. I mean, dude, MindMed, GH, I don't care who, Cybin, I don't care who it is. They're going to need to be done in a clinic, whether it's 20 minutes in the clinic or whether it's 8 or 12 hours in the clinic. You're going to need to go to a clinic. There is no way that you're never going to go to Walgreens and pick up a dose of 5-MeO to go do it at your house. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. If the opioid crisis didn't happen, I could maybe see a conversation where we're talking about it at least, but there's just no fucking way. Oh man, sorry, I swore on here.
no, all good, all good. So now I've been dying to ask you this question actually for the last week, and we spoke about it a little. I guess with the short acting, and I'm gonna ask you about specific companies later on, but I would like to ask you, because I've been thinking about myself, so first of all, I'm a Thai shareholder, huge a Thai bull. They speak a lot about, VLS-01, their DMT program, potentially slotting into the Spravato treatment paradigm, and BPL-003. They talk about a 2-hour treatment window. Now, the thing is, when I think about it more, with 5-MeO DMT, especially, is someone going to be ready to, have the 5-MeO experience and then leave the clinic like 40 minutes later after I've never tried it. I can't even imagine how, people say it more reliably than any other psychedelic elicits a mystical experience. I mean, like a 2-hour window. Yeah.
I have tried it.
Okay.
I am not going to lie to you, dude. It is the most, you can't even really describe, like, I'm having trouble even trying to find words for it. Dude, you are fucking gone, dude. Like, I talked to my dead grandfather. I watched my son be born again. I mean, it was so intense.
Yeah.
I don't, number one, I think you need to be in a very, very, very good headspace to even go into something like that. I think that market is going to be, I'm not sure it's going to be widely as adopted.
A lot of people are saying this.
MDMA is soft, dude. You know what I mean? You feel good. You can talk. Things feel good. Like, you're not even there. Like, even with LSD, you're there. You're tripping. But 5-MeO, I don't think, like, if you haven't done it, it is going to be almost impossible to describe somebody what they're going to experience when they sit down and they get ready to do that, dude. I mean, it's that different.
Totally hear what you're saying. And, you may be totally right. It's not something that's used widely, but something I always think back to is, the way these companies, the biotech companies, are delivering these drugs is, it's different than, I guess, in the wild, so to say. So with, I guess, if you're inhaling it, I guess through a pipe, I believe like within seconds, you're like in outer space. Within like seconds, it's like a rocket
center
ship.
of the universe.
Yeah. It's a rocket ship up and down. Now with programs like GH Research, they do an individualized dosing regimen. They start off with a smaller dose. I mean, it's still a strong dose, of course. Then they work their way up. And with BPL-003 with Beckley, um, which Atai has a strategic investment in, it's a 90-minute experience where it's drawn out, and I don't think it takes a couple of minutes to reach the peak effects. I'm sure it's still extremely intense, but my thesis, and obviously I could be wrong, of course, is that it may be a more manageable experience potentially.
I 100%. Dude, I will tell you though, listen, man, I am very lucky. Like, I take great care of myself, like from a diet perspective, an exercise perspective. I spend a majority of my time with my family that I'm not working or friends. Like, I take good care of myself. Dude, after I was 8 hours away by plane, dude, I got done doing that 5-MeO dose and I came right home to see my family. I changed my flight because I missed him that much.
Wow,
That thing definitely holds promise. It's just like I said,
it's a lot, right?
yeah, man, I really think you need to be in a good place. And if you
Mm.
look at the indication, right, major depressive disorder, I think GH is treatment resistant depression.
Hmm.
It's you're dealing with the sick of the sick, buddy. I mean,
If,
it's
definitely, and especially actually one of my concerns with um the clinical trials is the fact that you know people are required, so many people with TRD are on antidepressants even though they're not working, they're still on them. It's,
yep.
I guess, a safety net. The fact that for the Compass phase 3 trial that people have to be weaned off these medications, which by the way, it's no secret, people know that for many people it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
And then you go into a high dose psychedelic experience. I've been trying to figure out, like, asking people smarter than me. I also speak to a lot of people much smarter than me. They think that it is like when these drugs do actually enter hopefully the medical world, people won't have to wean off of these drugs, and hopefully they could get more data around it. I think Compass wanted to get the trial right the first time and not have to worry about drug to drug interactions, maybe. But with that being said, it is with the clinical trials, I am worried about that. People being not in the best mind state
Yeah.
going into these experiences.
So, the compass thing is really funny, man. I've been able to talk with a couple of the OGs on the black market side that have done hundreds of ceremonies. And a lot of those guys, they want, especially if you are on high doses, you either to wean off
That's
significantly
what I hear. Yeah.
or not be on them at all.
Yeah.
I've heard that the outcomes of being on those are very, very, very different from an experience standpoint.
That's what I see. That's what I always hear. And obviously more research is needed, but
Yeah.
we have data now from Cybin looking at adjunct treatment. MindMed did a study with people on SSRIs. Imperial College London did a study. What I saw from those results is, I know Imperial College, they saw that people had like a little bit less of a peak experience, but the antidepressant
Yep.
effects were the same. With Cybin, I mean, you saw that data. Obviously, again, a small trial. That data was remarkable. MindMed in their study, actually, a couple years back, they found that it was actually safer to do. So it's interesting that you say this, because when I bring this up to people, I guess on the black market side of things as well too, they are still convinced that you need to do this without these medications, but the research so far has not shown that. So
Yeah.
it's gonna, we need more research, of course. So I guess time will tell.
And I also think, like, dude, I think the indication, like, listen, there's almost a little bit of placebo in that too, right? Like, oh, listen, my medication that I've been on, I'm still taking it, and this is just going to help. So I wonder from
Mm.
an adverse standpoint, how much of that is in play.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? That would be
Yeah.
an interesting standalone study by itself before that. But listen, I also think, dude, depending on the indication, the person, I don't, that's why like our current medical system just doesn't fucking work, dude. It isn't like this one thing fits. Like, dude, we were talking about facilities, right? And like custom tailoring like a solution
Yeah.
around them, depending on the operator. Like, why isn't healthcare like that? It
Yeah.
shouldn't just be like this works for this guy. This needs to work for you too.
That's
I
right.
think, you know, and especially as we get farther down the pipe of genealogy and like, dude, like there's some of these super interesting AI systems now that like, you know, I think you're going to start seeing a more tailored type of experience where, listen, maybe it makes sense for you to stay on,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, your Paxil before you take this. I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
have the right answer, you know, and also as much as I love the roots, you know, versus the suits argument, at the end of the day, like a lot of these guys are in their fucking basements or their sheds giving people high doses of
That's
mushrooms. You
right.
know what I mean?
I mean, it's
Like,
true.
I mean, it's kind of, you know, it's a very, very, very important part, you know, but I don't know. Like, you know, I've talked to several indigenous cultures too, where on the reservation they're doing some ceremonies and they've had no difference between people taking their medication and people not taking their
Yeah.
medication. So
It
I don't know. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like when I hear from people like them and they're like, yeah, there's literally no difference in outcome. Doesn't matter what they're taking. Like, you know, it makes me kind of think of the tie-dye t-shirt crowd as, yeah, just, you know,
Yeah.
they just maybe don't like and dude, listen, we've seen that division in this industry, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and listen, cannabis was the exact same thing, the roots versus the
Really.
suits are, but a lot of these guys just don't realize, man, like if you want this to be decriminalized, if you want this to be available to, listen, 90% of people are not going to come trip out in the woods with you. They're just
No,
not.
that's right. It's true.
And they just won't. They want to go to their doctor
Yeah.
that they've seen their entire life and they want to get a prescription for something
Yeah.
that can help them. So you know, I hate the infighting, dude. Drives me can batshit crazy.
Yeah, it can drive me crazy as well. Yeah, I don't think many, for example, like middle-aged people are gonna wanna, they're depressed and they're gonna want to try psychedelics with like the local shaman or go to Costa. You get what I'm saying? But I would
Yeah.
like to touch on a little bit the point you made. I think you were touching on precision psychiatry. I think we're gonna make a lot of progress in the coming years with that. I'm excited even outside of psychedelics with Numora,
I I
alto
am too,
neuro,
dude.
yeah, Numora, alto neuroscience, even Compass with digital biomarkers. It's really
Yep.
fascinating. And I think I said this already, but I've also been dying to ask you this question. So, you know, I like to look back at the past interviews, past videos with people just to see where we were and where we are now. And there's an interview you did with Shad at the Dales Report.
Yeah,
And
he still owes me a crystal ball too. He told me he was gonna send me
that's
one,
right. You already know where I'm
motherfucker.
going with this. It was a
Yeah.
year ago. You made a lot of great calls. You said you liked Mindset Pharma, Small Pharma at the time. Both of them ended up being acquired. Clearly, they had some of the best IP in the space. My favorite one, you mentioned that you thought a tie in a year from now would look like a completely different company. And to be honest, after the strategic investment in Beckley, it really does. They have a lot of
And cutting
catalysts.
their staff by 60%. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
their catalyst table is totally changed this year. Um, so with all that said, I'd love to know who you're keeping your eye on right now.
From the public side or private side or
From the
both?
public side, from the public side, and we'll get to the private side.
All right. Listen, man, I continue, you know, we were very, very, very early in Cybin. I continue and we still have all of our small pharma stock, never sold
Yep.
a single penny of that. I, their programs are very, 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 very exciting. And when
Yeah.
I look at a couple different things. Number one, the stage of their trials that they're in, right? The management team that's there, their patent portfolio. Like, dude, it's really hard not if you were to take their name off that company, take the name off the drugs, and you were to show that to an analyst, and then you were to take the maybe one of the higher market cap companies. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. And you were to say, listen, from a patent standpoint and just phase standpoint of where they're at in their clinical trials, which one of these companies is a higher market cap? I mean,
Yeah.
Dude, it's shocking. It really is. So like
It is shocking. Yeah.
if I look at from a buy standpoint, dude, Doug's the real deal, man.
Yeah,
You gotta
absolutely.
give the guy credit, dude. Like he's the real deal.
Yep.
Um, I think value buy right now, if I were to take $50,000 and put it into one company on the drug side, it would probably be Cybin.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
listen, there's some of the dilution things, and I don't want to speak bad about the company because again, I love the company, I love the patent portfolio, I love the management team, but I didn't love the equity line drawdown just from a dilution standpoint, but I also
Hmm.
understand when the biotech index is
Yeah.
near 5-time all-time low. I understand you got to make sure that the mission carries on.
Yep.
It's one of those things, but yeah, I could foresee, looking at a big pop. And then, dude, listen, I still hold all of my Compass stock too. I've never sold a single penny of my Compass stock. Um, I, just from where they are, at a design standpoint for their try, I think they did a lot of things right.
Mm.
And listen, being in phase 3 too also helps. I could have a product that's commercialized sooner than later,
That's right.
versus the rest of these guys, right?
Yep.
And listen, man, I still love a tie. I think that they've taken a lot of corrective measures. I'm
Yep.
disappointed to see the stock perform,
Hmm.
the way that it still has. And again, I think it's just overall biotech. I mean, dude, I was at a conference in December that was all biotech, and this company is in phase 3 trials for an immune. It's a cancer drug that the drug was already approved. It's going through a separate set of trials for oh my god, transplants
Mm.
now, and the efficacy looks. And listen, it was only in 5 patients, but the efficacy looks amazing, and they're trading below cash in the bank right now. I mean, so I think it's just healthcare, dude. It's biotech at all. COVID, everything was on fire. Dude, I remember, I'll never forget. I woke up one day and everything, everything in our portfolio was up. I've never in my entire, dude, I've been investing since I was 23 years old.
Mm.
I've never in my entire life seen anything like it. And I was like, holy shit, the fall from this is going to be awful. And it was way worse
Oh
than
my
I ever
God.
could have expected.
I remember I was
um,
talking with people. Sorry to interrupt you. We were talking with
yeah,
people. I remember when a tie like hit $10 a share. Me and my friends were like, "Oh, this is like such a steal right now." Just, I guess the
yep,
cheap can always get cheaper. We've seen it for what, 3 years now.
dude. I don't know what the bottom on some of these things are. I mean, dude, I
Yeah,
never
it's.
thought like I mean, dude, everything, mind med, a tie, like you name it, dude. Simon, like everything is just getting beat to pit.
I
Compass,
know.
luckily, Compass raised so much money, when everything was still hot. Like, dude, they're good. They haven't. That's why they haven't gotten beaten to death like some of the rest of these guys have. Is because,
Hmm.
dude, they're able to ride out while the rest of these guys are going to need to raise cash. Like they don't need to.
Yeah, I wonder if those warrants. I know they're at 993. I wonder like if they get exercised when that would happen. It's something I think about. But I would like to. I agree with you. Listen, I hold a tie and Cybin, the only two companies I hold. Cybin's really exciting. It seems like they're leading the way here with DMT in terms of
100.
the
There's
clinical
nobody who
trial
can.
process. They have
And
maybe the
listen, dude,
strong, yeah,
I love Cosmo. I love Cosmo. I love Amanda. I love the Beck. I'm also a shareholder in Beckley. But I mean, dude, you look at the amount of programs and where they are. Like, I mean, they are far and away the lead right now. It's
you
it's
know,
not even close.
I was thinking about it. Like, I thought hard about it. I was trying to, I think that they may be the only, by next year, if they take the same route they did with doing a small proof of concept study for DMT, then into a phase 3, by like 2025, 2026, they could be the only company in the space with two different psychedelic compounds in phase 3. No
It's
one
nuts,
else.
right?
It is nuts.
Yeah.
And
Well, I told you, dude, from a valuation standpoint, I mean,
uh,
that's that's the horror. Like if you're looking for that big with like
Yeah.
that casino, dude, but bet the house on those guys.
Yeah, um they've really just executed in terms of the clinical trial.
Yeah,
They were like a preclinical company like 3 years ago,
dude,
preclinical to phase
think
three.
about that.
That's it's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited about them. And they got some, I always like to see when RA Capital invests in a company. I like to follow them. When they got in on Simon, I was like, oh, interesting. It's interesting.
yeah.
But they're exciting. And anyways, here with now take it to the private side. Who are you looking at here?
Um, tough. I listen. Gilgamesh is probably, since I put the first dollar of money in that company, is probably, listen, man, the experience is there, the ability to exit companies is there. I really, 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 really a big fan of
Sorry,
theirs.
Cody, may I ask real quick, what round are you allowed to share what round you actually got in with them? Was it seed, series A, series B?
I
If you're
think it
allowed to
was the
share.
seed. I think it was the seed and the A. I'd have to check. I
Oh,
don't
wow.
remember exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were early though, dude.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
actually the viewers may not know, but obviously, Jonathan Sporn, founder of Perception Neuroscience, um, Andrew Krugel, founder of Cures, both were under the Atai
Yep.
umbrella. Yeah, they're a really interesting company with next gen, right? It's just only NCEs. You'll hear Jonathan Sporn say, "There's no way in hell we're developing a generic drug."
Wants those patents, baby. Wants that 20-year window.
So actually,
Uh,
now I'm thinking, what were your thoughts about, first of all, the NIDA grant to their ibogaine program? I thought that was huge.
yeah, so I don't know how much I can share. The last time we were in Washington, D.C., there were some conversations that were taking place around, some of the addiction things that were being done in areas that were hit very hard. And, there were a group of VA hospitals that were interested in exploring further possible treatment methods. I don't know what ended up. Obviously, I wasn't involved in any future conversations in there, and I don't know if that was what really drove that to be done. But listen, man, the number one killer of men 18 to 45 is opioids
Mm,
and fentanyl. That grant probably should have been $140 million,
yes,
to be
I was
honest with you.
totally.
You know what I mean? So I think it was well deserved for him. Dr. Sporn has continually kept his head up high, hasn't gotten, I think a lot of people don't know how many folks in the industry he knows. He really could have he could have twisted the knife on a couple of different people and companies, and is always, been highly regarded by everybody from a science and an investment standpoint. So I think it's well deserved, man. And again, I think it's much needed, just for the state of addiction in this country, and
Yeah,
I guess all over North America. But I mean, specifically talking about the U.S.
yeah,
So
it's
that
yeah.
that is their selfishly probably mind state. Dylan
Mm.
is Dylan's a sharp kid,
That
man.
guy's a
A
genius.
sharp guy.
Yeah.
A sharp guy, not a kid.
Oh
He
yeah.
is he's I tell you, he's I'm lucky, man. I've talked to hundreds of companies now, from, like you said, tech to clinics to doctors to clinical trial sites to drug developers. He has a very unique pulse on what not only the insurance landscape is going to be looking
Yeah.
for in some type of classic profile, but also what doctors are going to want to administer. I think that gives them a pretty big edge,
Hmm.
as to what they're. It's fat. Listen, man, and I think they're a Y Combinator company, right?
That's right. Yep,
Yeah.
they are
So
one of three in the space. Them and Gilgamesh, actually, them and
yeah,
Gilgamesh, the two ones you mentioned, Y Combinator. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You can tell he has had a lot of very, very smart. We talk about having smart people around us, dude. He's had some had some very intelligent people around him, and he is intelligent himself. So he's been able to absorb that and really take that baton and start running. It's that's an exciting one.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
I'm actually glad you mentioned both of those companies because something I've learned when speaking with angel investors is the team is like like don't even look at the pipeline until you look at the team. And I've had multiple angel investors tell me Gilgamesh, their team is stellar, and same with Mind State. So I'm
Back to
glad.
jockey, not the horse.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Those companies are really doing some really innovative stuff.
I think outside of the drug side, not a portfolio company. I think what Enthea is doing is very important.
Yeah.
From the insurance side, I missed that investment. Listen, man, it was hard at the time when I was looking at that company. Like, obviously just being we made a lot of investments into clinics, right? Like I knew that they were billing insurance already for Spravato.
Mm,
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I when I look at the large, like how does this integrate across 100,000 centers, 500,000 centers, a million centers? I don't know where that big alpha is. And listen, man, there's a lot of funds that I really respect that are invested in them. So, I'm probably the idiot in the room on this one. But yeah, I at the time I just didn't understand how it was going to scale up when insurance was already in place for
Mm.
a lot of these things.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting to see how the space evolves. And it is, I mean, it's such a ginormous year. And I got to ask, final question. What are you most excited about when it comes to the psychedelic medicine space in the coming months and years? Is there anything that worries you as well?
Yeah, the worry side, man, is really the infighting.
Really?
I don't think a lot of people know. You know, I mean, shoot, from the companies have actually done a very good job of being very friendly
Mm.
lately, but there was a lot of lawsuit talk very early on.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think we'll probably see some of that, as money continues to come into the space and, trials start to advance along. I would, if I had to bust that crystal ball out again, I would not be surprised to see a lawsuit from one of the major companies.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I think
Wow.
I think that's probably going to happen.
Holy
And
crap.
then on the nonprofit side, it would be nicer if a lot of these guys work together a little bit more. And I also understand, listen, man, like even though they're not for profits, they're still fighting for the same dollars, right? And there just aren't that many of those, but it'd be nice to see a little bit more communication and joint fundraisers, things like that. But again, everybody's fighting to win, same way a
Mm.
lot of these companies are. So I understand. What am I most excited about? Uh, Listen, man, having a lot of people that I really care about and have a lot of respect for, and seeing the lack of treatment available, whether it's for addiction, depression, things like that, knowing that there are hopefully some new treatments coming around the corner,
Yeah.
you know, really, really excites me, dude.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
I don't, one of the things I think that gets misconstrued a lot is, you know, oh, listen, F pharma, like, you know what I mean? This is like that, dude. Pharma has literally, like, I mean, it's lowered, infant death rate, like
Yeah.
everything, dude. Like the reason why we live in the society we do today is because of healthcare as a whole. And listen,
Yeah. That's right.
are there ugly and dirty parts of it? Of course there are, but
Yeah.
I don't care what you do. There's ugly and dirty shit about everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I see people go after SSRIs and therapists and this and that. Like, dude, listen, again, this isn't a one size fits all thing. I don't think, most people are going to go and take a high dose of 5-MeO and then be better for the rest of their life. I don't,
Y- That's
it's
right.
just not, it's not realistic, man. So I hope that, while some of these new things are coming down the pipeline, that a lot of the people that are early believers in the space, investors in the space, operators, whether they're clinic operators or whether they're shamans, and more that ecosystem should all live as one, because I think that there's a place for each of those. And again, I think it's going to come down to the person and what they think is best. So,
Yeah.
the most exciting thing for me is, listen, we have a lot of really cool and exciting shit coming down.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
I'm really excited, dude. And I look towards MDMA, obviously. A lot of friends in the military, a lot of first responder friends. I'm extremely excited about that. I'm really excited about what's taking place in Oregon and Colorado right now. I'm really excited about the alcohol use disorder for ketamine that Awaken's doing. Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot to be excited about. And listen, selfishly too, as an investor and an operator, I'm really excited about the REIT too.
Oh yeah.
You know,
It sounds awesome.
yeah.
Everything I heard, only good things so far, and I can't wait to learn more in the coming months. Very well said, Cody. Listen, thank you so much for coming on. Really looking forward to seeing what happens with the space in the coming months and years. And if you're watching this video and enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.